Good evening, everybody, and we're starting a new Sefer Shmot, בשעה טובה, and we'll, Bezrat Hashem, bless ourselves that we'll be, we'll get out of the golus, of any golus that we have, a part of golus, in order to be משוחררים, free, all, Bezrat Hashem, with the nisim of Yetziat Mitzrayim. We are, the name of the shiur is names and no names, because we find that Sefer Shmot deal at length with the names, and usually we talk about the big opening of the parasha, whereas the Torah repeats. It's useless because we have the same list at Perek Memvav of Bereshis, at Vayigash, with the same names almost, and it's mamash superfluous. We don't need that, and that leads Chazal to bring a lot of midrashim about the significance of names. What does name mean? So ve'ele shmot bnei Yisrael abayim mitzrayma et Yaakov isho v'to ba'u. Then we have the list, all the tribes. ויהי כל נפש יוצא ירך יעקב, 70 נפש, we have מחלוקות, רש"י, רשב"ם, רמב"ן, יוכבד, do we count her, don't we count, etc. But we have to see several things that we don't see in Sefer Bereshit, because when we talk about names, we have to understand why it is just now. We finished a lot of parshiot with Yosef, with his sons. They all had names, all the Shvatim had names. Why do we have to stress out the names here and not in Sefer Bereshit? If we have to define Sefer Bereshit, so we mamash see that we have a lot of dynasties. Okay? On Shabbat I spoke about Shoshelet, and somebody told me that she didn't understand the word in English, so it's dynasty. Dynasty is Shoshelet, and we have all over the Tanakh, we have 13 dynasties. Ele Toldot, just 13 times. 11 of them in Sefer Bereshit. We have תולדות נוח, תולדות יעקב, תולדות אברהם, תולדות תרח, תולדות all over. And if we want to look in macro or about Sefer Bereshit, so we must say that dynasties show just the continuation, just the structures, as he said on Shabbat. We're not talking about the people themselves, we talk about the continuation. HaKadosh Baruch Hu creates Adam HaRishon, and then we have a dynasty of Adam HaRishon leading to the 10 generations to Noach, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu creates Noach, or Noach is born, okay? And then we have 10 generations still leading to the 20th generation of Avraham Avinu, and from Avraham Avinu we have the Avot, and then so on. Here we talk about a nation. It's very clear, and we said that in some point in Parashat Vayigash, for the first time, Yaakov, the Torah, I mentioned it last week, the Torah stresses out by mentioning twice Yaakov, and in the middle, we have Bnei Israel. For the first time in the Torah, we don't find the sons of Israel, we find the nation of Israel. And from now on, they're called the nation, Shmot Bnei Israel. When we talk about a nation, we have always the problem of the singular, the Yachid. What does he or she do in amongst the plural, being a part of? It's very nice to feel a part of something bigger than you, but you have to define and to find yourself as a place of yourself in the big, amidst all the peoples, all the commons. You have to see who you are. That's why the Torah stresses out and says the names of the people coming to Am Yisrael. So the first matara, the first goal of the Torah, by mentioning the names, is to tell you that even though you're a part of such a big tzibur, you have your own name. I think I've mentioned once a beautiful Ramban in Parashat Bamidbar, saying then we have a mifkad, we have a count that they stand and everybody is a part of the tribe. There it's not the same thing like here. It's not just the general Am Israel. There it's general 12 tribes. And even though the Ramban says that's a reason why each and every individual stood in front of Moshe Rabbeinu, because it was written there at the beginning of Parashat Bamidbar, שויעמדו לפני Moshe. Ramban says they stand berdavka in order that Moshe Rabbeinu will look at his eyes or at her eyes for 1 second, but by then he or her will feel their individual, their identity. They are not just a part of the klal, they have their own identity. And if you see, or some of them might even attended the list, the queue to the Rabbi Milubavitch, so you see that sometimes he speaks 2 seconds with most of the people. And a lot of them remember his face, looking at them just for 1 stare. That's enough. But he gives you the 2 or 2 seconds of his attention. That's enough. That's what makes you into what you are. And the same thing happens here. And that's why we have the names. So the names of the tribes in Parashat Vayechi symbolize just the continuation, where 12 tribes, continuity of the Yaakov's dynasty. But now, no. Now it's too big. It's 600,000 people, and we all diverge from 70 people, 70 individuals, and therefore we have all the names of the tribes. Pay attention to one interesting thing. I wanted to say it on Shabbat, but I didn't have time, and now it's a good point to say that. If you look, we can divide the Torah into a lot of chalukot, divisions. We can divide the Torah to 5, חמישה חומשי Torah. We can divide the Torah into 7. As we know, Sefer Bamidbar is divided into 3 Sforim, till Vayi Binsoa, just Parashat Vayi Binsoa, and from Vayi Binsoa on. And we can divide the Torah into 2 chalukot, 2 divisions, and we can, I think we spoke about it on at the end of Sefer Bamidbar, that in at one glance, we might say that the Torah ends at the end of Parashat Masei, because they are standing in front of entering Eretz Israel. Nothing happens, and all Sefer Dvorim is just a repetition. It's just Mishneh Torah. We hear again about the same thing. I'm not going to say that there are no details that are mentioned just in Sefer Dvarim, but that's another issue. But most of the Torah is repeated, and we don't need Sefer Dvarim for that. And in a way, we might say that Parashat Masei ends the first Torah. The second Torah starts with Dvarim. But I want to say something opposite. At one glance, we might say that from a different perspective, that the Torah starts from Bereshit until Parashat Vayechi, we have 1 Torah. From Parashat Shmot on, we have another Torah till the end of Vezot HaBracha. Why? Because the main character of the Torah, who is he? Moshe Rabbeinu. And Moshe Rabbeinu, till now, we didn't hear anything about him. He is born in this parasha, in Perek Bet, and from now on, till next Simchat Torah, till Vezot HaBracha, so we didn't have Moshe Rabbeinu at all, okay? We will just have Moshe Rabbeinu, and we won't have any parasha, just Tetzaveh, but it will be a long Moshe Rabbeinu. If you make this separation between Sefer Bereshit and all the Torah, And we might say that Sefer Bereshit is just, story, history, or whatever you want, or Derech Eretz, how do you define it? And the Torah starts from Sefer Shmot, because then you have Parashat Bo with the mitzvot, etc. So you might see that nothing ends in Sefer Shmot. Not only that Moshe Rabbeinu is born in Sefer Shmot and goes on to Vayikra, Bamidbar and Dvarim, but if you pay attention, all the things has never finished in Sefer Shmot. Am Yisrael goes to Mitzrayim, he gets out of Mitzrayim, Nig'al, Kriyat Yam Suf, but they don't come to Eretz Yisrael till mamash the very end of the Torah. The 40 years, it's one section, and it's just from Shmot to Bezot HaBracha. Look more than that. The Mishkan is mentioned in a lot of parashot in Sefer Shmot. We have Truma, we have Tetzaveh, we have Vayakel, we have Kudei. But even Sefer Shmot, 4 parashot, a third of the Sefer, doesn't end with a Mishkan's story. Because going to Sefer Vayikra, it's all about the Mishkan. Going to Sefer Bamidbar, we have again Parashat Be'alotcha, Parashat Naso, with all the story of the Nisim. It's a continuing story of the Mishkan, of its foundation, of its continuity. And we didn't finish with any story. Go to the story of even Chet HaEgel, the big Chet, which is mentioned just basically in Parashat Ki Tisa, okay, in Perek Lamed Bet, Vayar Ha'am Ki Boshesh Moshe, and then they make the whole story of the Egel, golden calf, and then Moshe goes back from heaven, etc., etc. And then even then, the story is not over. How does the Kadosh Baruch Hu react? HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Uveyom pokdi ufakadeti. And the story goes on. It goes on in such a way that every time on Yom Kippur, we say, on Ta'anit, we say, Vayomer Hashem salachti kidvarecha. And we never pay attention that it's mentioned not there. It's mentioned in the Meraglim, okay? And how is it possible? So Rashi says that Salachti Kidvarecha then in Chet HaEgel, but it's mentioned just in the Meraglim. But Kadosh Baruch Hu said, as I forgave you then in Chet HaEgel, I'll do again in the Chet HaMeraglim. But in the Pshat, there is a linkage between Chet HaEgel and Chet HaMeraglim. And if you look in Tehillim, Sefer Tehillim, the famous Mizmorim that speak about the history, Kuf Hey, Kuf Vav, Kuf Zayin, they all speak about the stories of the Midbar. So sometimes they go not chronologically, not lefi seder. They skip from one place to another and you don't understand what it's all about. But if you find, you'll see that they start, David HaMelech goes, skips about all the things that Am Yisrael had Kriyat Yam Suf, and then he had the problem of Vayam Kemitonanim in Be'alotcha, and then he has a problem of Korach, and then he goes back to the big affairs of Am Yisrael, the 3 big affairs of the Mikra, Chet HaEgel, Chet HaMeraglim, and Balak, Bnot HaShittim. So we see again that there is a linkage between Chet HaEgel and Chet HaMeraglim. I'm not talking about the Bnot HaShittim now, but in a way, Sefer Shmot never ends with anything that talks about. Moshe doesn't end here. The Mishkan doesn't end here. The story of Bnei Israel in the desert doesn't end in because they have 40 years. And even Chet HaEgel itself, that it's something that just mentioned in Sefer Shmot, we have to repeat it again and again. And it goes through Chet HaMeraglim, and just there it ends or comes to some extent of an ending. So Sefer Shmot is an open book, and from Sefer Shmot till the end of the Torah, we're dealing with the same figures, the family of Moshe, mainly Moshe, but the same, all the four books deal with the same people. Sefer Bereshit, unlikely, deals, if we spoke about all the Torah from Shmot on till the end of Vezot HaBracha, now we'll speak about Sefer Bereshit. We thought that it spoke about Avot and Yosef, but we might look at it somehow differently. How does Sefer Bereshit end? With a burial of whom? Of Yosef. How does the Torah end? Sefer Dvorim, with a burial of whom? Of Moshe. What's the difference between Moshe's burial and Yosef's burial? Very interesting. With Moshe, we have a mamash kever. We don't know where the tomb is, okay? But we know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu buried him, and there is a tomb somehow, somewhere. Where is the tomb of Yosef? There is nothing. Yosef Chanut, okay, is, how do you say it?
Embalmed.
Embalmed. Embalmed. Thanks.
Embalmed.
Embalmed. M.
Embalm. Embalm.
Okay. Embalmed. Thanks. So Yosef is embalmed, but in a way, when you are embalmed, you are never nikbar, you're never buried. Till he goes back when Am Yisrael ends, when it takes him out of Mitzrayim to Shechem, he is never buried. So it's very interesting because Yosef has some linkage to Adam HaRishon, because Adam HaRishon was not born because he was created by HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. And Yosef, ending of Sefer Bereshit, was never buried. He's Ke'ilu Chai Le'olam, okay? In a way. Adam HaRishon should have lived forever, but he sinned, so therefore HaKadosh Baruch Hu told him, okay, you should die. But Adam HaRishon comes Ke'ilu from no beginning, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is his beginning. And Yosef has no ending, because at the end of Sefer Bereshit, Yosef is still alive in a way. He's embalmed, but he's not dead. He's not going to a tomb like a normal human being. Sefer Shmot, from the other way, we're now speaking about Sefer Shmot till Sefer Dvarim. So Sefer Dvarim ends with Moshe's burial. Sefer Shmot ends with Moshe's birth. Moshe is born from a normal family. He has a father, he has a mother, and at the end of Sefer Dvarim, unlike Yosef, who has Ke'ilu, who doesn't die, Moshe dies. Okay, so we have what does it tell us? It tells us that if this separation is correct, we might look at Sefer Bereshit not like the Sefer of the Avot and Yosef, but like a Sefer of angels, Sefer of Titans, okay? Sefer of the giants of, at the beginning it's Adam HaRishon himself, later the giants at the end of Sefer Bereshit, and then Noach, and then the Avot, and then Yosef. They are people that gives us just, inspiration, but we not normal people. The Avot are some people that just give you a wrap to the nation. Now we're talking about the nation itself. We go down to the people. The people are born like Moshe Rabbeinu, and the people are buried like Moshe Rabbeinu at the end of Sefer Devarim. But the two different burials of Yosef's and of Moshe's, I think they significantly shows a difference between the two books. Sefer Bereshit is used for the ovos, for the rab, for the atifa, for the structure. Sefer Shmot and on is a real thing, and that's why we go back to the names. We don't have forefathers, we don't have Yosef, we have normal names, people dealing with Am Yisrael. Now we'll go further. What else do we see in Sefer Shmot that we didn't see in Sefer Bereshit? In Sefer Bereshit, we never saw girls or women, okay, or female. We saw them, we knew that they existed somehow, but who is responsible for the big chet? Chava, okay? She is born just to make the chet, but we don't know what's the name of Noach's wife. We don't know. It's Naama. It's just Chazal's midrashim. We don't know who she was. What's the name of Abraham's mother? We don't know, and so on. Okay. Sarah is secondary to Abraham. Rivka is secondary to Yitzchak in a way. Less. Rachel ולאה are very secondary to Yaakov, Osnat, without all the מפורשים, and Dinah, without all the stories of the Midrash, we don't know who they are, כמעט, כן? We know the names, they don't do anything in a Sefer Bereshit. Coming to Sefer Shmot, we for the first time have a lot of women and a lot of women acting. We have Miriam. We don't find a lot about her in the Mikra, because basically the Torah doesn't talk at length about a woman, but we know that she was a Neviah. We know about her Shira from Parashat Beshalach, and we know the Midrashim bring us more about her, about all the Gemara in Sotah, that she convinced Amram, her father, to marry Yocheved again in order that Moshe Rabbeinu would be able to be born, because Chazal understood that there are figures that must be stressed out. Women. We have the Meyaldas. We have the mother of Moshe, Yocheved. We have the Bat Paro. We have Nashim Tzedkaniot all over the story of Egypt. We have Nashim Atzovot at the end of the Mishkan. Okay, Moshe Rabbeinu makes the Kior from the mirrors of the Nashim Atzovot, and we have the women that didn't sin in Chet HaEged. So some of them is I'm mixing Midrashim and Pshat, but you must see that there is a big difference between Sefer Bereshit and Sefer Shmot. In Sefer Bereshit, the women did nothing at all. And in Sefer Shmot, they do almost everything. Okay? That's another difference between Sefer Shmot and Sefer Bereshit. Looking at the names, we see here the 70 names that I have spoken about, but it's not the only names that we see in the parasha. We see Gershom and Eliezer, okay? Gershom, okay? We have the Shem or Sham. Maybe there is a משחק מילים of Shem and Sham. We have the name, למיילדות העבריות, even למיילדות. What would happen if the Torah omitted the two names of Shifra and Puah, and we didn't know that the Meyaldet, they just had a big miracle, and they made a big chashivut, that they saved lives, and we didn't know who they were. Nothing would happen, but we wanted, Torah wants to stress either the women, who they were, and or the names. The Torah is interested in the names. Allah. We spoke about Gershom. We see Moshe at towards the ends of the parsha when he argues with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, ve'amru li ma shmo. we saw a lot of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the forefathers, Havot, talked with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay, and Paro, maybe Yosef mentions the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, את האלוקים אני אראה, זאת עשו וחיו, וכולי וכולי. And we never heard somebody asking what's his name. Here we have a lot of games about the names, ואמרו לי על שמו, תאמר להם ככה, אהיה אשר אהיה, יש לך אני עליכם, the next parasha וארץ, the beginning, Moshe Rabbeinu complains at the end of Parshat Shmot about הקדוש ברוך הוא שהרע לעם הזה, it became the situation deteriorated, or it's worse than what it used to be, and then הקדוש ברוך הוא tells him, אל שדי, אני נראיתי, I spoke to the אבות, in אל שקי, ושמי השם לא נודעתי להם. We talk about names, 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 and names, all the time. Okay? מי שמך זה to דתן ואבירם, when seeing משה רבינו looking at them, they'll ask you, him, מי שמך לאיש, שר ואויה, כן, you are a person, ish, with name, with somebody. Who are you? Okay, we see that in Parashat Shmot, in a lot of times we see names, and even if not names, we see people that are people, because looking at all the dust and the avodat parech, the avodah kasha of Am Israel, like the Holocaust, or like slaves in Egypt, you have a lot of people all suffering, and what they lack, they don't have their names, they don't have their identities. Therefore, the Torah wants to stress they are coming from 70 names, they have names, they have identities, and therefore we see a lot of things that gives the name. What in the beginning of Parashat of Perek Bet, we talk about Moshe Rabbeinu, and if you look at Perek Aleph, what do you see here? You see macro gzerot. You see that Paro speaks about Am Israel, that Paro hates Am Israel, that he wants to throw them to the Nile, that he wants to kill the babies, etc., etc. But we don't see individuals, we don't see families, we just hear the macro sevel of Am Israel, and agony and tzeaka, okay? But in Perek Bet, when the Torah talks about Moshe, the Torah starts from a family. There is a father, there is a mother, and there is a son. וילך איש מבית לוי, ויקח את בת לוי. Okay? Now we're all used to the Gemara that I mentioned in Soita, that Miriam had convinced Amram to marry again his wife, but just without the Gemara, just a pshat. What does it mean? וילך איש מבית לוי ויקח את בית לוי. ותרא האישה ותלד בן. Why do we need that? And we don't even the names. וילך איש מבית לוי, it's Amram, we don't have the name. ויקח את בת לוי, it's יוכבד, we don't have the name. So why do we need all the marriage? What does it gives us? Of course, ותרא האישה ותלד בן. Why not saying that Moshe was born? Why saying that ותרא האישה ותלד בן out of father and mother? So after Christianity, it's it might be that it's it's nigud, a negation to Christianity, that the Messiah comes from nowhere. Here it comes from a normal family. Okay, but I don't think that that's what the Torah really wants to say, to tell us. I see that we have again the limit of 10 minutes, and it's clear. Yeah, it's clear because I used mine Zoom. I have to use his, or the Schulz was, and then it will be with unlimited time, I think, because how does the program know that it's not mine? Okay, so Yitzhak Yitzhak made it unlimited, but I have to ask him how to get into his Zoom and not mine Zoom. Okay, never mind. We'll finish in 40 minutes. Okay, today. We have 9 more. It's enough. Okay, so וילך איש מבית לוי ויקח את בת לוי. The Torah wants to tell us that there is a family. There is a father, there is a mother, and there is a child. And again, the Torah doesn't just negate Christianity, but I think the Torah wants to show us that there are normal people among the big disaster outside. You see slaves, you see suffrage, you see people suffering from, they don't have time to look, they don't have time to know who they are, they don't get married, they die, nobody knows about them, they're thrown like what happened in the Holocaust. But no, there is a Seder, there is a family, and from Perek Bet, it's mamash, the Yeshua comes from very well-ordered family. There are figures. There is Abba, there is Ima, there is a baby, there is a sister, and there is a brother later on when he sees, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will tell him, "V'ra'acha v'samach belibo." This family will go on towards the end of the Torah, but you are not a part of the big nation. You have your own identity. As we don't talk about tribes and we don't talk about individuals because Moshe must be born out of a family and his sister treats him, etc. So we talk about the smallest and most narrowed structure of society, which is a family. We'll see it at length in Parashat Bo in two weeks. Then the Torah tells us that in Leil Seder, when getting out of Egypt, you go in your family and you are nimne, you're counted on the se, okay? Because you start from the basic unit, which is not yourself, because sometimes yourself is not enough. You have to do with other people, but it's not a tribe, it's the family. What does Moshe symbolize in his name? Is he called Moshe? Kimin hamayim meshitihu, okay? Which mayim is he taken out of? Is it the name that takes the situation in history that Bat Paro looked at him and found him and saved him, and she took him out of the Nile, and then Moshe's name symbolizing Kimin Hamayim Meshitiu, meaning he is a nitzol, okay? He is a survivor of the disaster of throwing the babies to the Nile, and therefore his name mentioned the being survived. If you look or if you talk about this kind of an attitude, so think anytime you say Moshe, you talk about a disaster that almost happened. And like, you know, some people when they're not healthy and you call them Chaim, so each time they go to the Torah, you call them Yamod Reuven Chaim, so you remind him that he is a survivor. Like Yitzchak, he is after Zakeda. He is no longer a normal person. He will ever be a survivor. And if we talk about Moshe in this meaning, and the Maharal understands that his name comes from Kimin Hamayim Eshitur, from the water of the Nile, so it means that Moshe bears in his name the Goral of Am Israel, the Holocaust that almost happened, and then HaKadosh Baruch Hu, by saving him, started to save Am Israel. But we might say that Moshe's name, Kimin Hamayim Ishitiu, doesn't relate to the Nile. He is the one that will, in the future, be taken out of the water. When coming to Yam Suf, he'll make the nest, and Yam Suf will divide into two parts, and he'll pave his way in the water. Ki hu mashui min hamayim. If you look in this way, so the Midrash says like this, the water doesn't relate to the Nile, the water relates to Yam Suf. And then Moshe doesn't look to the situation he was born. Moshe looks to the future, to the thing he'll do. More than that, usually, if what is a magnum opus of Moshe, you'll tell me to bring the Torah, to teach Am Israel, to take them out of Egypt. But according to his name, and that's interesting, and according to one point in the Midrash, his name, if it symbolizes not the Nile from which he was taken, but the Yam Suf that he'll cross, so his name, his main goal by taking Am Israel out of Egypt is not just to get out of Egypt, and it's not to get to Am Eretz Israel because he will never enter. His main goal is to Likroa et Hayam. That makes Kriyat Yam Suf into the peak of Moshe's achievements. That's interesting. And we have the two options in his name, Moshe Kimin Hamayim Meshitiu. I want just to end with the Maharal that I just mentioned. Maharal says that if you look, you say here, you see Vayelech ish mi Bet Levi vayikach et Bet Levi without the names. Okay, I said a few minutes ago that Vayelech ish mi Beit Levi, it gives you the man, it gives you the woman, it gives you the family. Okay, but the Maharal says something mamash opposite. He says that the Torah wanted to hide the source of Moshe. Therefore, the Torah, even that we all know Moshe is Ben Amram, it's written explicitly later, and in Parashat Vayera, and we know all of us that Yocheved is his mother. The Torah hid it, and the Torah talks as if Moshe is born out of the blue, out of nothing. That gives us, because if the Maharal says that had Moshe been born from a normal family, I stress out, I said something different, but the Maharal says that if Moshe were born from a normal family, you would think that he is normal, that he is not something unique. By hiding his father, by hiding his mother, and by making obscure the whole story of his birth, and then he's nolad ki tovu. What does it mean tov? Chazal says that light came with him, but what does it mean tov? So Moshe is mamash keilo chas v'shalom, like the Christian story. Can he is born from heaven? Okay, that stresses out the significance of Moshe, that he is not born from a family, and that stresses out that his name is unique because he came from no names. So if you want to sum up, basically Sefer Shmot, unlike Sefer Bereshit, speaks about the names, speaks about the 70 people, speak about Gershom, speak about the Meyaldot, the women, the names, the families, the family from where Moshe is born. But the Maharal says that you have to see the things that we don't see the names. We have to see Perek Aleph when we just see slaves, we don't see names to understand the suffrage of Am Yisrael. We have to see the beginning of Perek Bet to see the non-names of his father and mother to understand that somebody which is